Hello and welcome to Chatz, a television podcast, Season 9, Better Off Chatz. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by the man who moonlights as Minas Tirith the Unrepentant. It's Magellan.
Hey.
Hi,
Sorry,
Magellan.
I'm eating a burger.
How's the burger taste?
It's okay.
What kind of burger is it?
Cheese burger.
Oh. That definitely had the energy of Malcolm in the Middle. Who is that?
Egg, yeah. Very, very deep cut Malcolm in the Middle reference. I appreciate that intro of yours for the people who are watching closely. That you're hanging a hat on just how stupid it was that his name was Mordor.
Yeah, and they address it. They know. They're like, really, Mordor? And he's like, well, they're like, oh, Kevin. He's like, no, my name's Mordor. Stop.
Yeah, we'll get to it. But I thought that was silly.
Alternate takes included Rivendell the recalcitrant.
Ooh.
I like pulled up every Lord of the Rings city and like wrote a bunch of takes, but that's okay. Yeah.
Mr. Shire the shitty.
Yeah, that's really good. Go ahead.
Shire the shitty.
What were you gonna say?
That's what I was gonna say. I said it.
No, I let it.
Nothing better than that.
Well, Magellan, it's a brand new day. It's a new week. It's a new time, and I'm feeling good.
Boom.
I used to be obsessed with that song. I almost had a Muse phase, and then I was like, I don't actually like most Muse music, just that one. And isn't that a cover also? I'm pretty sure it is. Don't correct me on that. Anyways, hi everyone. It's Chatz. It's the Chatz kids. It's Magellan and Alan, your two favorite television podcast pals. Here to discuss Better Off Ted on a show called Better Off Chatz. This week we watched the Series 1 finale of Better Off Ted. It's British time here. Hello, I'm Alan. We're watching a series. It's Season 1, Episode 13. And the episode is called Secrets and Lives. This episode was written by Dan O'Shannon and Michael Tieferbaugh. It was directed by the homie Michael Spiller. And it originally aired August 11th, 2009. John, can you tell me what happened in Secrets and Lives?
In this episode, the office finds out that Veronica is secretly working as a magician's assistant. Linda sets up a date for Ted, and Phil tries to improve his self-confidence. Alan, what do you think of Secrets and Lives?
I thought this episode was excellent. I've been thinking a lot about like how sitcoms can make character development a thing, and you can obviously go for the classic Scrubs or 90s sitcom route where it's like, this is now time for us to be serious and put away the jokes and the toys, and it's time to say, I'm depressed. And that's like the sort of emotional heart of an episode. But Better Off Ted doesn't put aside the comedy to make character development happen. It weaves it with the jokes and the heart at the same time. And this episode does that in pretty much all of its subplots. Because if you're really paying attention, all of these characters have grown so much in this season, and we're seeing that in this episode. It's very silly, it's very goofy, but like I was saying, it doesn't betray that like sense of whimsy and comedy and absurdism for its character development. But it manages, I think, to do both effectively. What about you, mister?
I didn't like this episode.
Okay, all right.
I think so. We're gonna have a nice little discussion about it. I mean, I hear what you're saying about character development, and I do think that there are multiple moments where characters in this episode like show a new side of themselves or discover something or develop in some way, and I think that that's great. I think for me, this episode really, whether you like it or not, sort of hinges on the expectations that you have for Better Off Ted as a show and what it's about, because it's a season finale. And I feel like, it's hard to make a season finale. It's hard to make an episode of TV, period. But it's hard to make a season finale where you're sort of like returning to what the show is about, but also moving things forward and paying off people's expectations, but also giving them something new. Like it's really a thankless task. But for me, I think that this episode rather kind of set aside a lot of what is distinct and unique about Better Off Ted in favor of doing an episode that felt a lot more standard sitcom to me. as opposed to doing the more like satirical thing that they usually do.
Yeah, this episode's definitely not doing much with satire. I just feel like choosing to give Veronica an arc that earnestly addresses her own problems with like authority and being a part of something larger and working for someone else, and then using that to come back to the office and say, well, now she still maintains authority and the status quo is kept, but in a different way. She's not slapping people anymore. She is being assertive with her words and her actions instead of just with, physical violence.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I mean, I think I have maybe internalized a lesson about Veronica from previous episodes that the show wasn't trying to teach me, which is like the one where she's telling Linda all her secrets, right? And we just keep learning darker and darker and more horrible secrets about Veronica to the point where you walk away from that episode with the conclusion that like Veronica is this irredeemably like soulless person.
Yeah.
Which obviously no person is irredeemably soulless, but I think that our friend Jim, when he was with us on that episode, made a good point that Veronica is meant to be kind of like the stand-in for the corporation as a character, and in the scope of the satire of the show, that means that like Veronica is a character that you can joke around with, and she can even have some moments of like emotional truth that she just can't process right. But to me, it just felt like, I don't know, I think it's a matter of interpretation, because I see what you're saying, that this is like a great growth moment for her and she's sort of discovering how to be more of a person. And I think I'm coming from the perspective of like, does that undercut the satire to an extent?
Yeah,
because go ahead.
Like, does suddenly saying now, like, we've gone 12 episodes accepting that we know corporations are bad and we know if she's the stand-in for them, then she's not going to change. Now they're saying, but she can change. She just isn't. Does that like damage the show's satire or not? Or belittle it, I guess.
And I think the other thing is like, I think of Better Off Ted as a show that's more in the ecosystem of something like Veep, where, or even Arrested Development, where like there is some sentiment in those shows, I suppose, but at the end of the day, the shows are saying like, hey, these characters suck. Like they're bad people. And we're making a point about that. And we can sort of have a fondness or an empathy for them from time to time. But like at the end of the day, they're bad people. Whereas maybe I'm wrong in thinking that. And Better Off Ted is more a show like Parks and Rec, where it sort of tried to do that in its first season or first two seasons of like, we're going to show local government and like the problems with it and all these characters that are kind of, like Ron Swanson, what a horrible dude. But then by the end of Parks and Rec, Ron Swanson is like the most adorable teddy bear of a man, and all of the characters adore each other and are constantly celebrating each other.
Yeah.
And I love Parks and Rec and it's a great show, but like it's not making a point about anything, like it's not making a point about government by the time you get to the end of the show. And I think Better Off Ted in episodes like this is sort of giving up making a point about business or making a point about capitalism or whatever for the sake of like having fun with its characters.
Well, my only last counter to that is that the change that Veronica goes through in this episode isn't suddenly that she learns to be empathetic. I mean, if you're following through with Jim's theory that or his idea that Veronica represents Viridian dynamics, they put a different face on the same evil. Instead of slapping the guy, she threatens to fire him, which is equally bad, if not worse.
True.
In the end of the episode, that's like her lesson. So it's not to say that they suddenly make everybody friendly and love each other. I would be super disappointed if Better Off Ted really leaned further into that, because that's just not what I'm here for, and that's not what I consider realistic. Even with the time that this series was airing, I don't think that was the kind of ending that people were expecting or looking for. Was this like earnest, happy, hand-holdy ending? It's something to consider. Like, I guess when we talk about the season as a whole, is also like what was this show trying to say in 2009? Because I actually just read for another podcast this really fantastic essay from the 1940s, which I believe, if I can get the name of it right, it's a Walter Benjamin essay called Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. And long story short, people should read it if you care about sort of leftist critique of art and media, from a position of a German or the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. But a leftist critique of media during the Nazi regime in Germany. But basically arguing that you can have something exist in a period of time and place, like Better Off Ted existing in 2009, and say, oh, this is about, the economy and the economic collapse and how businesses are trying to bounce back from that. You can also look at it today and think about how it affects today's audience, and that is a distinct and valuable re-examination and reproduction of that work. Like if the show came out today and exactly as it was, would it still work? Would it still be effective? Something to think about with the sort of themes of this episode, but we can kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this one. We open on a really iffy joke that it looked like both of us didn't love, where Ted is walking through the office and talking about other people there, and he runs into Alice, who thinks that she's 20 years old and she's an older woman who wears tight clothing, which do not know how to feel about that. And then we get our running joke of the episode, which is this guy Ernie, who quote thinks he's a gangsta, and he's a white guy who talks like the rap music.
Yeah. He sags his pants and he's wearing his headphones all the time and stuff.
His Apple headphones, yeah. It's
a joke that simultaneously felt super dated, but also people still make jokes like that all the time, you know? Of wouldn't it be funny if there was a white character who talks like a black person? And I think what I don't love about it is just that's just such a gray area in modern internet and joke and meme culture of we're making fun of this guy for going yo, hey, whatever, but also a lot of meme culture is about appropriating black vernacular.
Bingo.
Right. So it just feels a little, I don't know. And there wasn't really that perspective maybe in 2009. I'm not sure. But I just don't think that this is funny. And I don't think that the show's really making fun of him so much as it's also making fun of how rap music talk sounds as well.
My two corollaries to that, right, are one, we're a year or two out from the scumbag Steam meme taking over Reddit in 2011 or whatever. So white guy dressing and acting like a black person is still considered pretty funny. It just doesn't challenge the status quo in a way, and that's something I want out of my comedy, and I think Better Off Ted often does do. You can say you're expecting too much out of a sitcom, out of a network sitcom from 2009, but literally Better Off Ted has made pointed criticism about racist algorithms. They did a whole episode about that, so they know that that race exists. But I just think that there is something kind of dull and doesn't push anything forward about the fact that we'd rather see a white guy act like a black person than a better, more black characters. We're still pretty early in the discussions around representation and all of that, and I think it feels like a relic for that reason, where it's really, we're just gonna do wacky gangsta white boy instead of just have another black guy in here.
It feels hacky. And I mean, when I was writing satirical articles for when I was in college, I definitely did an article where this was the joke of it's a character speaking in a voice where they're talking about bling and whatever, and I look back on that and it's ugh, that's embarrassing. Because it really is kind of a really standard hacky joke that doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't push the envelope. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't make fun of what it thinks it's making fun of. It's just kind of lazy.
Exactly. And I think it pivots kind of hilariously to the main Verdian pitch of this episode. Speaking of things that are dated and don't seem to know how critical they are of the times, which is the facial
This was a core gripe of mine with the episode, by the way.
Definitely, and I agree there with me as well. They are in a meeting, the higher ups, about some new facial recognition software that can identify anybody who's ever had their photo taken digitally, in a crowd, in a video, in like old footage. Anybody that matches their face, they can find, and they frame it like, Linda's the only one who's like, this is a terrible idea, and as usual, she has to go, just kidding, I work for you guys, so I love this. And she says, doesn't this seem pretty sketchy? And like, this is not sci-fi technology. This is just how things work. This is how facial recognition works.
Right.
We talked about this in the racial bias episode, but the police can find people from protest imagery and tweets, and use that to make arrests. People can be picked out of a crowd easily. The police uses that. The government uses that. The FBI uses that. It pretty much works like that. They have street cameras in Chicago today that do this. Algorithms. That's why every app that's like, it makes your face look really old. Yeah, but it's a free app, and you're like, what's the catch? The catch is that they have your facial data, that they then sell to people. So like, Veronica being like, oh my God, what about the privacy concerns? Feels so like, oh, we're so too late. We're just a little late on that.
Yeah, I think my issue with it was that it's this really rich and thorny issue of technology and the sort of like moral implications of particular technology, which could be a core theme of Better Off Ted, except Better Off Ted doesn't really address that core theme that often. Like, they did it in the episode with the lights that go on and off depending on your skin color.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I can't think of another time where they've really thought about, like, here's a technology, what are the moral societal implications of it? And this is such a rich thing that they used to springboard into this like kind of wacky crazy town plot where it's like, Veronica has a magician boyfriend. Oh my God, what? And everyone's like, let's just look at this. This is crazy.
Like,
and
please
I'm
look away from the
like,
man behind the mirror. Instead, we're gonna look at this Veronica plot.
And I'm sitting there like, can we talk about this like horrifying technology, and do a plot about it? And they kind of like, the Phil plot is cute, and I think it's a fun way to do a cute B plot with this tech. But they like don't do an A plot with it. It's like a Simpsons episode where the first 2 minutes are completely unrelated to whatever happens next.
They set up, and then they're like, all right, that setup's done, throw it in the trash, we have another.
Yeah, they just do like a 2-minute episode of The Simpsons before the rest of The Simpsons. And this really felt like that, where it's like, okay, we just needed, they had the idea for like, Veronica has a magician boyfriend, and then they're like, okay, how do we reveal this to everybody? We invent this technology.
This moment, right? Like, let's put Veronica's company headshot in, and then we see a video of her with Mordor the magician, find out that she's moonlighting as a magician's assistant.
I mean, I did have fun watching this episode. I don't want to make it sound like it's a horrible episode. I did enjoy it, and I watched it twice, as I have done with most of these, and I enjoyed it both times. Like, it's still a good show. But I think we dig into shows sometimes in this way when they're good, because we're like, come on, you can be better than this.
I absolutely expect more,
Right. And this is my like kind of translator microbes little gripe that I have. First of all, the Photoshop on the pictures is just,
it's so
distracting.
bad.
It's just distracting.
I thought the joke was like, it's fake.
Right. And I guess you can't like go out and stage all of these photos, but then it's one of those things where like, if you're gonna do it, you can't half do it,
Either make the Photoshop better or
don't show it, right? And then my other kind of whatever nitpicky thing is the picture with Veronica and Mordor that is revealed. Someone's like, oh, a fan must have taken it with their iPhone. But like, that picture is so clearly staged to be a promotional picture for the show that Veronica does. Like, what was she expecting was going to happen?
This photo was taken.
Why is she sitting back and being like, ooh, yes, explore, search the photos of me? She doesn't think that that's going to show up. It's just, kind of silly.
It's like when we watched that Justice League episode for Pilot Chats, my little Patreon plug of the week. And it's like,
week.
okay, these bad guys have one weakness, and it's sunlight. And you're like, cool, that's fascinating. And then you remember 5 minutes ago, they're like, this senator lived as a senator in human society for 2 years and presumably just never saw sunlight. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You just have to accept certain like narrative weirdness. But that one is definitely like, come on, guys. Like maybe it's just like people don't expect algorithms to work as well as they do. Like she was like, I have nothing to hide because she doesn't think that that's going to come up, but it totally does.
I guess that makes sense. I don't know. The photos, not to, disparage the art department too much, but I just thought that the photos were not super well done there.
I agree. And like if that's the joke, then it doesn't really land as well because the show's not addressing like, wow, it doesn't even look like you, except in the Phil plot a little bit.
Right.
So I think Phil plot, Linda plot, and then Veronica plot is a good order of discussion here. What do you think?
Sure, that sounds good.
Phil, after the scene, discovers himself through the algorithm riding a bull, and he's super excited, but then it turns out it's not him. It's Byron McNertney, who is, I think we talked about this on a chat, again, double Patreon plug, a Chatz Nights episode where it was like, do you think someone else like out there exists that looks exactly like you? And so Phil discovers his secret twin. And I love where this goes, like thematically, like you were saying earlier, because instead of like freaking out, like we got to meet him, he's like, why can't I be cool like him?
Yeah,
I wish people. It
reminded me of when you told this is I guess a Red Dwarf spoiler, but you told me about a Red Dwarf episode where
the Ace stuff, or wait, no, which stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you explain that?
Yeah, basically, there's a Red Dwarf plotline without getting into like deep spoilers, but it's an old sitcom. One of the main characters is like really down on his luck and believes that a lot of his bad luck is because of his circumstances in life, like how he was raised. And one day, because it's a sci-fi show, he meets an alternate universe version of him who's like super cool, badass space pilot, hero, savior of the world. Women love him. And the reveal of the episode is that the thing that changed them was that he didn't choose to go to like pilot school or whatever. He like fought for it and worked really hard, and that was what made him successful, not like getting into school and just kind of coasting for your whole life. But they look the same, so he has to be like, why is that guy me? And like, what did I do wrong that changed me?
Yeah, so this reminded me of that, and I think it's a compelling little story that you wouldn't expect, but that it's a fun, lighthearted way to deal with the tech that I would have been able to swallow more if the plot was like a more substantial meteor grappling with this particular technology.
Yes, exactly.
But I had fun. Like Phil and them are fun. McNertney-nize. We've got to McNertney-nize you.
By surrounding yourself with confidence and like a beautiful women, which again, remembering that Jonathan Slavin is a gay man, like making him play this like horny straight guy is hilarious. He like goes to a gym and tries to flirt with a woman, and then her boyfriend comes up to him and he's like asking her for her number, and the guy's like, yeah, I have the same number, and he's like, well, make sure you don't pick up when I call her. And then they do this really fun cinematography thing where he comes back to the office and he's got like something on his face and everyone's gasping, and you're like, is it a hickey? Did this work out for him?
Yeah.
When he turns around, it's just a freaking bruise. He just got his ass beat.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really fun. I really liked that bit a lot.
Yeah. I also like, it does kind of sell out the plot a little bit, but the very end of the plot where Phil's like, I've learned, like, I can't be McNertney. I don't want to do that. And Lem's like, well, isn't there some kind of middle ground? And Phil is like, nope. I don't think so.
He does say, I'm happy to finally be a threat to a hot girl's boyfriend.
Yeah.
So funny that he actually just like, it's not that he got to get the girl, he just got to make her boyfriend angry, and that feels like a step up for him, which it is, sort of. But
yeah, and as much as we were saying the photoshops are bad, the one Photoshop you see where it's like Phil's face planted onto some guy in a crowd of women, like, it does look funny.
Yes.
It doesn't look funny for the right reasons, because it looks like a bad Photoshop, but it is a funny, bad Photoshop.
Yes, exactly. there's a lot of photos in the other plot line, which is the one that like caps the episode. And I know you texted me after first watching it being like, wow, better off Ted. You really did just do that. Which is the
Oh,
Ted.
that I was talking about a different scene.
Oh,
actually.
you were? You weren't talking about the
Mhm.
Ted and Linda stuff?
No, I was talking about something else.
Okay. Well, so Ted and Linda are continuing to have feelings for each other. Specifically, we kind of paint Linda as like really forlorn and wanting Ted, but she wants to get over him more than anything. So she tries setting him up with her former roommate, which doesn't seem like it's going to go well for a while, but eventually it does. Linda reveals to him that she has a boyfriend and keeps trying to convince herself that she likes this boyfriend more, but of course she doesn't. And by the end of the episode, I always get Phil and Ted mixed up. Damn, white men be doing that. Ted gives her flowers, and she thinks that like, okay, maybe I don't have to get over this. Maybe we will be together. And he gives her flowers. Is it like flowers to give to her roommate?
I think it's just
or it's flowers
thank you
as thank
gesture for setting them up.
Yeah,
what it is.
And he basically says, "Now I'm gonna try and take this relationship with your roommate more seriously," which is like, oof. And then she is left alone at the end.
Yeah, because she breaks up with her boyfriend over the phone.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's pretty sad.
It is sad, and it is. I think that's the plot where I could be most swayed that this is like a great character development episode because both Ted and Linda develop, right? Like,
yeah.
Linda learns, okay, this is what I want. I'm gonna go for it. Ted learns, like, yeah, I don't want to just be alone. I don't want to keep dwelling on the fact that my ex-wife left me. I'm gonna get out there and try to make something happen. But then both of them developing at the same time pushes them in different directions, which is the tragedy of it. So I think that works, and I enjoyed that.
It feels like you could see this exact plot line happening on a drama or a more serious sitcom, even. Like,
yeah, it does feel like a very like Friends kind of thing too.
Yeah.
But I think it works. Yeah,
I do too. Rebecca is the name of the roommate, by the way. I didn't recognize the actress. I looked her up. Her name is Rochelle Lefevre, but I wasn't familiar with her.
Yeah, I thought I recognized her. It turns out my mom like loves Twilight, so I've seen her on the screen. She's in Twilight.
Oh, rock and roll.
But she looks like either Michelle Trachtenberg or the woman who plays Tara on Buffy, and I was like, was this woman on Buffy? But no, I don't think she was.
She kind of does, though. I see that
in a different vampire thing.
Wait, wasn't Michelle Trachtenberg also on Buffy?
Yes, yeah.
She's Dawn, right? Okay, just making. I was like, wait,
Dawn,
brain.
Yeah.
My brain's like putting two synapses together. There's that first scene when Ted is set up with Rebecca, and he's like talking to Linda, and he keeps turning to the camera over and over again to be like, I'm single. Yeah, I'm fine. It's fine. I'm fine with it. Hey, listener, I'm okay with being single right now. And she's like, you should get with my roommate, which is a play on her part because she knows the person well and like can ask her questions about everything. I don't really have that many like notes about the individual scenes here, although I like the babysitting scene, which again, ding ding ding, dating itself. When Ted is like letting Rebecca babysit or whatever, or no, he's letting Linda babysit so he can go out with Rebecca. Is that the
Yep.
And he's like, the number for the pizza place is on the fridge, which first ding, she would have just like looked up the number. And then he's like, she can't use the computer because she ordered a boat online, and so there's no internet for her. And it's like the idea of the computer being the sole source of the internet is hilarious because we've both lived through that period where someone's like, all right, you have limited computer time, and you're like, I guess I just don't have the internet anymore. I'm gonna go play Nintendo.
Yeah, right.
But that was basically the one thing I had. And then they like do a lot of jokes about like Rose buying a boat, which I thought was
was weird. Like, did she fully buy the boat?
Yeah.
Ted was like, it costs $140,000, and it's like, Ted, couldn't you call someone and tell them it was a mistake? Did you buy the boat? Do you have $140,000 sitting around that you casually are like, it's okay?
I don't need to. We can just deal with this.
Yeah, I was like, what's up with that?
He's like, it's an 8-seater boat or something. You're like, what are you saying? I was able to cancel an eBay bet literally an hour before it ended. Like, Ted, you can cancel your daughter's bet before you get charged.
Right.
I believe in you. But yeah, Veronica. Oh, sorry, not Veronica. Sorry, I'm bad. I'm just bad with names. Is the thing. And then at the end, yeah, Ted buys the flowers, and then it's like, oh my god, I'm still gonna be with Rebecca. I guess we're gonna see Rebecca for a little while.
I guess so.
I'm okay with it. I think she's pretty fun. More women on the show is always fun. And where is this Ted Linda drama gonna go? Spoilers: they're probably gonna get together by the end of next season. I hope this isn't a whole season long plot, but it's to be seen. I know even less about season 2, which is exciting to me. Like, I do not know a single episode or premise from it. So, did you watch any of season 2 when you watched the show originally, or no?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I don't really remember much of it.
Okay.
But I've seen the whole show.
Gotcha. And finally, we have our Veronica plot line where we meet what's his face, Mordor, whose real name is just Kevin. And Ted's trying to meet him to ask for help with Veronica because she's taking out her frustration about this whole controversy by slapping people who mess with her in the office. So she slaps the gangsta guy, which I thought was going to be the payoff for him talking like that. Was she like hits him and tells him to stop doing that, and then he's like, "Oh shit, that was so offensive. I'm sorry." But it's not. He just keeps doing it. And then later she like is about the flip is that when she learns the error of her ways, she instead does magic on him and pulls a quarter out of his hat. And when Ted gets ready to slap him, he's like, "Wait, where's my quarter?" Where's my quarter? Because I didn't get one from you. There is a runner in this Veronica plotline about a dove that I got really tired of.
Can we talk about the slapping thing for a second?
Oh, sure.
Before we move past it, because the scene that I was like, they really did that was in the slapping plot.
Oh, when he slaps her?
Yeah, when Veronica slaps Ted and Ted immediately slaps her back. I was like, whoa.
Okay, better off Ted.
We just did that. And all this, I don't know, the slapping I just thought was, in a more absurdist show, could work, but Veronica could get fired for that, for slapping people.
Ted can get fired for that also. Everyone can get fired.
Yeah. It is funny that she's like, we're cool, right after they slap each other,
yeah.
But still.
I think the goal of that is to make you a little uncomfortable, and then remember that their power dynamic is such that neither of them has to tell anyone, that they're like, okay, we've also like had sex before, so we have like a more personal relationship than just coworkers, you know.
True.
But
I don't know if I've ever seen a man slap a woman on television before.
In the last 50 years, at the very least, like I've seen, you know, the Honeymooners and all that.
Yeah,
I forget if the joke in the Honeymooners is that he never actually does it, but he wants to, or what. But anyways,
I'm not sure. I think he's joking about it. Yeah,
but yeah, he meets Mordor. I like this Mordor guy. He looks like a kind of like an older Chris Angel, like Chris Angel in 30 years. Magicians were such a big thing
with like perfectly preserved teeth, like very nice teeth.
He's got incredible teeth. But yeah, magicians were such a thing in the 90s and 2000s. All the jokes about magicians, and is it somebody in this episode? I think it's Dr. Bomba who like is doing an infinite handkerchief gag in this too.
He does.
We're doing all the magic stuff. I actually liked the final magic sequence, not the dancing part of it, but the like putting someone in a box and then they appear outside of the box thing. I thought was actually kind of fun, and I'm curious. Like, obviously, TV magic you can do that really easily, but like how do actual magicians do that trick? Because you had gone into a little bit of like card magic a couple months ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and
then the pandemic.
I'm guessing they just did some cheeky editing.
Yeah. I don't doubt that
this happen.
So Veronica is trying to deal with the theme of the show. I found it actually pretty like affecting. Speaking of like comedic scenes that still work emotionally, when they're in the back room of the magic show and they're like, "Are you going to get on stage or not?" And like, if you think about it, if you really want to analyze this, her magician's assistant job is about everything that's like counter to what she does in her day job. It's about believing things that aren't real. It's about helping others, like being an assistant to someone else. It's about working under someone else, and in a way being like being controlled and being like manipulated by other people. So in a way, that is the sort of like problem she faces, is like, I don't want people to know that I work for someone else. Like, if she was just like, I'm a magician in my spare time, I think she'd be more okay with it. But she specifically is a magician's assistant. And the fact that in the performance, he describes it as like a weird sort of sex thing, and we get to see it, and everyone's watching it. Everyone has like ponchos up front. I guess it's supposed to be like a, staying out of the splash zone kind of joke.
Yeah, first couple rows are gonna get wet, kind of thing.
That's cute.
She said it had to do with where Ted's like, oh, everyone from work is here, and she's like, oh no, they can't see this, and he's like, what's wrong? And then she says something about how there's a part where she brings out like a big saucer of milk and starts drinking from it, and then she and Mordor bathe in it, and the first couple rows get wet.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I wish the performance was that absurd. It's really just like a real, pretty sexual magic routine. I mean, she's like going up and down and like putting her leg in the air, and like she licks Mordor's like whole chest all the way up, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
Borsch de Rossi did do that. It's pretty like ridiculous, but it's, they go for it, and then they do the whole routine, and everyone's like, wow, she's really good at this, and she learns to embrace her magic, her magician's assistant job, and brings that back to work by pulling a coin out of a guy's head. So
yeah.
do we think this is gonna last? Do you think Veronica's gonna like do magic next season?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I hope not, but also I know the answer to that question.
Oh, you do know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's where we're at with Better Off Ted season 1.
Did you want to talk about the dove? I cut you off when you talked.
Oh no, it's just a weird joke. They keep joking about where do you put the dove, and he's like, "Is it in your butt?" And she's like, "No, it's not in there." He's like, "Can you take a picture right before you put the dove in?" And she's like, "Nope, it's a secret." She keeps making him guess, and I guess the implication is that she's putting it in her vagina.
I don't know, because he said something about a dove in your thong, and she was like, "No, that's not where the dove is." So,
but you're close, I think.
Oh, I guess then, like, why?
Why?
Whatever.
It's not that funny. Even if it's not that, even if it's like, oh, it's in my armpit, like, why?
It could just the fact, that they made it a runner. It's like this doesn't sustain many revisitations of that idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my last major note and quote from the thing. Did you have any other stray notes?
Just to go back to Mordor's name, I do think it's dumb that he's called Mordor.
Mm-hmm. Very.
And it's a weird choice. Like, why did you? That's not how magicians are named.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you name him after something from Lord of the Rings? It seems like you're expecting people to not know what Mordor is, but like those movies just came out, so.
Oh, sure, that's relevant.
So, weird. But I do like the line where she says, "Mordor the Unforgiving," and I just hope he understands.
Quick but funny, like most good Better Off Ted jokes.
Really, really good, yeah. And then what else?
Was the implication that Ted flew to Las Vegas to go?
Yeah,
see the
that was a lot. Like I mean, he really cares about Veronica. I think he's in love with her. He flies to Las Vegas to like fix her life. It's pretty. He goes above and beyond.
I thought, well, and then he brings all the people with him too, right? Or no, he goes. This is before the show. This is when he's going to like convince her to figure out what she wants to do with herself. You mean?
Yeah, he like goes to talk to Mordor on her behalf.
I see.
Yeah.
I mean, he's rich. He can afford a plane ticket. He's good.
I guess so. It's just a lot.
It's a lot, though. I agree.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever know where Viridian Dynamics is located. So maybe they're in Los Angeles or something, and it's not that big of a jump. But I didn't like the whole like Mordor has a new stupid assistant lady. Like that's also a hacky joke. Like the dumb girl who can't do anything.
She reminded me of who she reminded me of, Magellan? Before I say it, let's see if you can guess. From a show that we've watched. It's a show. Oh, okay.
Show we've watched for Chatz?
Yes.
Oh, give me a hint. I don't know.
It's from Studio 60.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that had our Studio 60 season hasn't come out yet. It's in the bank. But
Shh, don't tell anyone. Secret.
Don't tell. Secret. Let's see. A couple lines I liked when Phil's talking about his wife, and Lem's like, oh, you got to try to get with these women or whatever, and Phil's like, but I'm married to a woman who seethes with both indifference and jealousy. That was good.
Fantastic.
There's a whole bit about how Veronica has to ice Mortar's nipples, and then Ted's like, Mortar's gonna have to pick a lock with flaccid nipples.
Can you talk about the bowl of eyes line? That's my favorite.
I didn't put down the whole line, but I like that too.
I think it was basically the gist of it was sorry to jump on your point. They have eyes everywhere, and he's like, "Oh, that's so much better than that time that we dropped that bowl of eyes."
Yeah, that's a good line. When Ted goes off on the date with Rebecca, she turns back to Linda, and Linda's like, "Don't do anything I wouldn't do." And then she says, "There's nothing I wouldn't do." And Rebecca says, "I know, I was your roommate."
That's the roommate sort of friendship you really want.
Oh, and then Rose is kind of cute in this one. She asks Linda, "Why aren't you dating my dad?" And then Linda goes into this explanation, and then she's like, "Oh, I have a boyfriend. That's why." I don't know why it's based on that.
If you weren't sure what's going on yet, she still likes Ted.
Yeah, that was a great line, I thought.
I'm dead, bro. That's what I said when I watched that. I said, "Dude, bro, I'm dead. I'm literally dead. I'm a corpse." No, that's pretty much the episode. It's a fun one. It's got a good amount of jokes, but some issues that I hope that they can course correct it with in season 2. But who can say? Magellan can say because he watched it.
Wow.
Now,
but I forget a lot of it.
Before we close, I want to talk about Better Off Ted season 1, and what we think about the show so far, how we feel about it as a chat season, and all of that. So to start, I mean, what did you think about this season overall, like as a whole, and revisiting it? Do you think more of it holds up than not? And do you think it has made for like a rich discussion that has helped it or hindered it?
So I'm really glad that we're watching it and that I'm getting the chance to revisit the show, because I think when I first watched it, I was just not in the space to like hold on to it particularly. I think I don't remember a lot of it because I watched the whole show in the span of like 2 days or something. When I was like, oh, I'm going to watch all these TV shows, but then you just don't remember anything when you do that, which is why we don't binge really on Chatz. But yeah, I think it's a really great show when it comes to joke writing. There are the reason we quote a lot of lines is because there's a lot of laugh out loud stuff. It's almost got that like 30 Rock quality to it, where every episode there are going to be a handful of things that you just think are so funny. And then I think where I'm kind of finding myself conflicted about it is just, my own thinking about corporations and capitalism having developed a significant extent since I watched it. And I think the general consensus having shifted since 2009 when it comes to corporations and capitalism and corporate culture and stuff. It in a lot of ways feels both ahead of its time and also way behind where we're at now. And, I don't know. We've talked about this before, but like as a show with like nice characters that you can sort of hang out with, it's very charming and works. And as the other thing that it's trying to be, of like a satire of corporate manager type people, I think it really falters. And I'm curious what it would have looked like if Better Off Ted were a show that came out in the streaming era and could just be a Netflix original that didn't have to be on a network and didn't have to meet particular demands or particular like tropes of what a sitcom is, and could just kind of be like, I think that's why Veep can be what it is, because it's on HBO, and so I wonder what it would have been like if Better Off Ted could have just been that show. I don't know if it would have been better or worse or what, but that's at least the tension that I'm experiencing as I watch it back. Right. But I still love it because it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's really funny. It has it has such a stellar cast, and gives everybody a lot of room to breathe and be like fully fledged characters and define their characters so well. I think it has such like tight scripts as well, and like that is what makes it hold up mostly. The problem comes from the fact that it's a show trying to, like, we talk so much here about how comedy struggles to age at all because inherently you're talking about the time you're in and the people, and we just talked earlier about like context, how much context matters when something comes out, and almost every episode has some like point of compromise where it's like, well, this would feel great and rewarding and satisfying and funny if it wasn't for the fact that there's this like 2009 perspective in it. But I just think that's such an important, interesting time for television because we're seeing the beginning of the like HD and like right before the streaming era begins. And I think this is like right as you and I were starting to develop a critical eye towards the media that we were watching, is like 2009 into 2010. Like watching it, I can appreciate the difference between where we're at now and then. And Netflix has eaten a lot of TV's lunch, and maybe a show like Better Off Ted would succeed more on Netflix, where they can have these like one-off episodes with less expectation of story, or go the opposite way and just tell a story, and make that funny. Like, how do you guys want to handle that? Because I think there's a lot of sitcoms even of Better Off Ted's time that balanced it better, balanced like story and comedy. So, but my other thing is, I feel like Better Off Ted has never endeavored anyways to be a linear narrative or a serialized show.
Right.
It is using each episode to say, hey, here's something in the news about corporations that they're up to. They're making fake meat. They have face recognition that doesn't recognize black faces. The military is contracting corporations to build things. ID software doesn't work correctly. I'm just going down the like list of episodes. How does technology mesh with the environment? All of that stuff. And most importantly, always coming back to the theme of like, how does your home life interact with your work life? Can they? And how do you separate those things? Do you want to? Should you? And how can you if you try to do that? And what does it do to your work and to your home life if you try to, smush those things together? I mean, like I think it's through rose-colored hazmat suits where he tries to bring Rose to work, and it's like, yeah, you can't. It doesn't work like that. Or you can't like have a after work medieval fight club that doesn't inevitably affect your job.
Yeah.
So if anything, the show does posit this theory and like take it to its conclusion that like, no, you can't fully separate these, or you can't integrate these things. Rather, you have to separate them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I think that's sort of what ends up feeling muddled for me about the show sometimes, is that sometimes it really is this office comedy that's about like its characters and about those very human considerations about work life and home life, personal life and professional life, and how to balance and navigate the gray area between those things. And sometimes it's a show that's like, okay, we're going to look at this technology and explore all the different implications of it and, satirize corporations and I just think I think you can do both, and I think there are moments in the show where it successfully does both, but I think it also waffles sometimes where it's like, all right, come on, pick a lane, like what's your thing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a show that does that successfully, and I don't know. Like, does Silicon Valley do that? I haven't seen Silicon Valley. Do they like make fun of techie stuff in a good way?
Definitely, yeah. And well, Silicon Valley is also like it's basically serialized 100%. There's like an idea in each episode,
okay.
But it's fully like we're telling a long narrative because it's an HBO show, and that's like what does well in their network. But yes, it's definitely like these are people that exist and are ruining the tech industry, and it's fundamentally corrupt and flawed on a basic level, and here's why. Like, let's laugh at that in a way. I need to watch more Silicon Valley, actually. I think shows like that are a sort of continuation of Better Off Ted's like, the whole thing is messed up. Let's look at people who work within it and see how they're messed up and laugh at it.
Yeah.
But we can still find things to enjoy about them as people. Like, I think genuinely Phil and Lem are already some of my favorite, like one of my favorite duos in the sitcom space.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, up there with, you know, JD and Turk, or Uncle Jesse and the other one on Full House. On like shows I watched as a kid, even like just they have a good friendship and a good bond that integrates sometimes very, very well with the main plot, and they're just really, really rich characters.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately too, like we were talking about in this episode, the show still falls prey to you know, having to have a romance and having a predominantly white cast, like problems with sitcoms that still persist to this day, that we haven't fully gotten over across the board. So there's parts of it that are dated not because of the writing, but just because of like the network environment that it's coming out in.
Yeah.
So overall, I mean, season 1 of Better Off Ted, I'd like to talk about a couple episodes that we really like, but I like it. I wish for better. I wish for it to ascend even further beyond the really good episodes that we get in this one.
Yeah, I think this is a sort of classic. This really is a classic example of a show that was canceled too soon, before it could fully figure out and realize what it was. Because these are definitely like first season problems that we're talking about.
Right.
A show not fully understanding its own tone or its own goals, and kind of trying on different hats. No matter what your favorite show is, 9 times out of 10, the first season has those exact problems. And even a show like, I don't know, my favorite sitcom is probably Community. And for certain, Community season 1 is like, has a hard time figuring out, is it about the people or is it about the satire or the pastiche, or, you know, what is it choosing? And it has some clunker episodes in there, or some episodes that like don't hold up super well to the test of time. Also 2009 sitcom. But yeah, I think, you know, we'll have to see where season 2 goes to sort of make a full evaluation there. But yeah, let's pick our faves. Let's officially coronate our favorite Better Off Ted season 1 episodes, and then I'd actually love to hear your predictions for season 2 before we fully close out.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
So let's talk favorites. Do you have like a favorite episode from the season?
There are things that I love about many different episodes. I think I've talked about it so much. The episode that most consistently hits all my marks is still Racial Sensitivity, just because it does still have, even like beyond just the you know, the A and the B plot, or just the A plot being like a good satire. The B plot and like Linda's new boyfriend stuff and all of that is pretty funny. I still like think about Ted trying to speak French to Dawn or whatever, and being like it was a he's talking I don't even remember what the line was. It was just he's very funny there and very charming, and everyone gets a chance to shine in that one. So I think it really does represent like Better Off Ted firing on all cylinders. That's my big number 1.
I think my favorite, it's tough. I think my favorite might be Through Rose-Colored Hazmat Suits.
Yeah.
I just think that the Veronica Rose plot is so surprisingly funny, and also really does. I think that's an episode that very successfully does both of the things that we're talking about sort of Ted as a father and a businessman, trying to figure out, you know, which one of those is his priority or how to balance the two things. On top of, there's also some good satire about like just Veronica having a kid in the room to be able to soften the blow of all the horrible things that she does. The Phil and Lem stuff where they're struggling to figure out who's in charge, and that kind of satire of you know, workplace hierarchy. And then also the extent to which they're also satirizing workplace romance with Ted and Linda making out in the hazmat suits. I think that episode really, for me, kind of established, like, okay, this is the tone that I should be expecting. And I don't know that there's another episode that hit it quite as pitch perfect as that episode did for me.
Yeah. It's kind of a bummer that the show gets its hits out of the way so early. But that's also just how we feel. Like I still think there's quality in the rest of the season, but like having that first 4 or whatever be all
Yeah,
hits.
and I don't think there was a single episode that was bad, right?
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
I have enjoyed every single one, but I think if we're, having to pick the very, very best,
Mm-hmm.
those are our picks.
Mm-hmm.
3 and 4.
I do like to give shout outs. Most laughs per minute, probably You Are the Boss of Me. That's Medieval Fight Club. Just because the creativity of the new set and like the premise and how it works and how it leads to so much comedy, I think really works well. Also, like, this show was so good for us to start bringing back guests because, even when it's like,
yeah, it's been fun.
Even when it's decent, it's like, oh, you get to watch a decent sitcom and then talk about work with your friends, which is like something I really like doing separate from podcasts. Like, it just worked out really well, and I'm glad that we had the guests that we did, and hopefully we can get more on for season 2.
Yeah, so if there's anybody out there who wants to come on and be on Better Off Chat season 2, we've got a whole wide slate, wide open of 13 episodes. You can let us know, take your pick, and get the heck on here. And then we'll try to have back some folks that we had on this season as well.
Magellan, do you want to guess what the highest rated episode of the season is on IMDb without looking
Of season 1?
Yes.
Highest rated... that's a good question. I think it's probably You Are the Boss of Me.
Okay. It's not.
Is that right?
Nope.
Okay, let me guess again.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the pilot?
No.
The pilot's really good. It's a really good pilot.
It's a very good pilot.
It's some important stress. Okay, final guess. Racial sensitivity?
No.
What is it?
Racial sensitivity got 8.8, so that was a tight second, but with an 8.9 out of 10 is Jabberwocky.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Jabberwocky's a good one.
It is.
Did you notice there was no Viridian Dynamics commercial in this episode 13?
I did. I'm praying that we don't lose those. I'll cry. I love them.
I don't know why they didn't have one. That's another point in my argument of like they kind of dropped the satire a little bit because they didn't even have one of those.
Maybe because this episode's like theme doesn't tie into anything big about corporations. I guess you could do like one about like moonlighting, like why moonlighting is evil or something, but
yeah, that
just seems like treaded ground, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what we got. I want to predict what I think is going to happen in.
Yeah, what do you think?
Saison Du.
Three predictions for season 2.
Okay, number 1. It's too easy for me to say Ted and Linda get together. That's cheating.
Okay, but are you going to stake that claim?
Yes, I am.
All right, Ted and Linda get together.
Phil and Lem, I really want them to make like a little robot or like a little creature that becomes their little friend and they become parents.
Oh, okay.
I really want
that. That's a fun one. They might do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess these are more aspirational than anything. I want Linda to come back to her children's book. I want to see if that goes anywhere.
Yeah, they really dropped that, huh?
That was such a fun little thing to set up. Like a meaningful character detail.
Yeah.
And then finally, this is like a traditional season 2 thing, is that they set up a foil for someone. I think an effective Veronica foil would be fascinating.
Interesting.
Like another woman who's like cooler than she is, and she like gets taken down a peg, and they like fight, and then they fall in love.
Sort of like in Studio 60, how they bring in that reality TV lady to be the foil for Jordan.
No.
Look forward to when we drop our Studio 60 season.
Yeah.
If you don't understand that. Cool. You want to hear what happens in the next 2 episodes of Better Off Ted?
You know it. You don't even have to ask me because you know I do.
I'm asking to be polite.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, next time we're watching season 2, episodes 1 and 2 of Better Off Ted. First, episode 1 is called Love Blurts. Viridian Dynamics matches employees based on their genetic compatibility.
Ew.
That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
It does sound fun, but ew.
I wonder if there's going to be a racial component to that.
Oh, God.
Let's see if they handle that. Then, episode 2, The Lawyer, the Lemur, and the Little Listener. Veronica...
5 times fast.
Veronica pumps Rose for information when a wave of layoffs hits Viridian.
Oh, shit. I think I knew that about season 2, is that someone gets laid off. But also Ted got laid off in season 1, and that didn't do anything. So it could be, that has infinite potential.
Yeah.
I love it. Season 2, baby. We're rolling right into it. The show's
Season
going
2.
by so fast, but also 2020, the longest year of our lives.
It's I think we're beginning to see the end of it.
We're cresting it. Can
I think so.
this is television related, so I think we can do it on pod.
Okay.
I have some sad television related news for you, Magellan. I don't know if you've heard about this.
I actually heard about it and was going to bring it up myself at this point.
This was reported, folks, as we were podcasting. This was reported
so this is a week old by the time you're listening to it. But
the god himself, the king of Jeopardy, one of the most charming men on television, Alex Trebek, has passed away at 80 years old.
R.I.P.
Rest in peace to the king. He was absolutely the soul of Jeopardy, and I really hope they don't continue that show without him. Because I don't even know who you're supposed to replace him with, but he was struggling for a really long time, and he's been fighting.
Yeah.
So, but that was such a bummer to see as I was like scrolling through notes. I'm like, oh shit, okay. Well.
Yeah, probably gonna watch some old Jeopardy episodes just to honor him.
There was literally a clip like this week where this guy who was on the game was like, "You changed my life, Alex Trebek." People should go look that up. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up. We can take it to the plug zone now. I'm sorry to go from something grim straight into paying the bills, but
let's do it.
It's the vibe here. If you have questions, comments, concerns for us, we have an email address, which is chatspod@gmail.com. That's chatzpod@gmail.com. We also have a Twitter account @chatspod where we have updates about the show. We have a community-run subreddit, a wonderful location for all things chats. It's reddit.com/r/chatspod. And we encourage folks, if they like the show, to check all those places out and also rate us on your podcast platform of choice so that the algorithm really comes to face us and show people our cool show. And finally, if you'd like to throw us a couple bucks and support us in a fiduciary way, please check out our Patreon, our premium monthly patron hub, where you can I was like, this sentence is going to end, damn it, I'm gonna get it. It's patreon.com/chatspod, and we have different tiers at $1, $3, or $5 a month, where you get different levels of Chatz premium content, including but not limited to the Chatz files at $1, where Magellan watches the X-Files by himself in the evening. We have commentary chats, we have pilot chats, we have Chatz nights. If you don't like the word chats, then get the hell out of Dodge. And at $5, you get our entire backlog and our undying gratitude and our deep, profound love. So please check out patreon.com/chatspod if you'd like to support the show, and you can get some cool extra content in return. With a lot of cool stuff coming up for the rest of the year as well. And we like to end every episode of Chatz by doing, instead of personal plugs, what we call Chatsems, where we recommend things for the listener, whether they be media or activities. And Magellan, I want you to start. Can you give the kids your Chatsem for this week?
Sure. First of all, I think it's worth saying this is now, again, we're recording this a week ahead, but yesterday for us, the results of the United States 2020 presidential election were called by major news outlets, and Joe Biden is going to be the next president of the United States, and we here at Chatz are heartily enthusiastic about that development. So that's pretty cool. We're just gonna leave it there for now, but thank you to the folks in the US who went out and voted and did whatever else you did to make that possible. It was all of us who did that. Cool. So that's that. In terms of a chatsum, I've been doing a lot of video game chatsums, and I really want to do other ones, but I just haven't really been watching movies or listening to music or doing other things. I've kind of just been going to work and playing video games. So I'm going to give you another video game chatsum, another Switch release. Is it on PC also?
Yes, it is.
Is it on Xbox and PS4 or just Switch PC?
I don't think it's... it might be. I'll look into this. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I recently purchased for the Switch the new roguelike sensation from Supergiant. Is that
Yes,
right?
good job.
From Supergiant, the creators of Bastion and the other one that they made where it's like
Transistor
sci-fi,
and
Transistor.
Pyre.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's called Hades. And in Hades, you play as the rebellious teen son of Hades, the god of the underworld, and
Zagreus.
you hate your dad, Zagreus. That's right. You hate your dad, and you want to get the heck out of there. And I won't say too much about it. I'm sure folks have already heard about it and maybe already have played it or know some things about it. But our friend Jim in our Facebook message group made a great point that what's really compelling about Hades is they make dying in a roguelike fun
Mm-hmm.
because that's when the story happens. And the story is actually pretty engaging. So I recommend it. If you like roguelikes, but you're also kind of like, ugh, roguelikes all feel the same and it just feels like I'm going in and throwing myself at enemies and stuff. This is a very, very capable and very, again, like kind of thematically engaging roguelike that also just has a cool world and a cool art style and great voice acting, and it's awesome. I recommend it. Hades.
PC and Switch for now.
PC and Switch.
Nowhere
Yeah.
else. But I've been playing it on PC. It's like on and off for months. It's because it was in early access last year, and a lot of people were like, "Guys, this is good," and I was like, "No, I don't believe you." And now everyone's talking about it incessantly and how hot all the characters are, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, fine." I like it. I really appreciate that. Not only does it make death kind of cool because you get to learn more about the characters, but it has. As of a recent update, they added a god mode that doesn't make you invincible because that would break the game, but it makes it so even if you lose, every run you get stronger. So they like passively
Oh.
just make you better every run. And I've been messing around with that because I'm still in the early runnings of like, this part's really freaking hard. World 2 sucks. But,
Yeah.
you know, I've heard people be like, once you get into it, you can start just doing entire runs and like it's nothing. So Hades, the Chatz endorsement.
Yeah. Nice.
I've been reading a book, as we like to
What's
say,
your book?
that I want to
What's your
shout out. Just a brief shout out. It's called Syria: A History of the Last 100 Years. It's by John McHugo. I actually got this book as part of the Harvard Bookstore's online virtual sale. They do these sales like every couple of months where they do like deep discounts on all of their entire collection, their whole library. And it was one of the ones that I found that I was like, I've talked about it before. My family comes from Syria, and I've always been fascinated in the country's history, and it's really hard to get that stuff orally. I feel like ever since we talked about roots, I've been like making a big effort to learn about my family's history and where they're from. And I found some interesting stuff, but to a certain point, it's like, and then imperialism erased everything, and that's true, but Syria: History of the Last 100 Years kind of frames it as not so much a narrative. I think there's a lot of history books out there that are like, and then chapter 2, the beginning. This book succeeds because it kind of it gives each period of time the appropriate coverage based on how much information the writer was able to get, like the Ottoman Empire period, and once the French colonized the Middle East, and World War II gets its whole section, and then going into like the actual current regime and like how we got to that point. And Magellan, as a history teacher, I'm sure you know the importance of like looking at our past, even our recent past, and seeing all of that to answer how we got to where we are today. Like, I think a lot of people think now of Syria and a lot of the Middle East, but especially there, as of like 2011, just being like, oh, it must be war torn. It's so sad, and it's so like, they're just screwed forever, and there's rebels fighting the government, and that's all it is forever. And it's much, much, much more complicated than that. So I think this book does a good job of like actually answering how we got there. So if you're interested in a country-specific history text that so far at least doesn't seem too biased, it's Syria: A History of the Last 100 Years by John McHugo.
Sweet.
And it's tight, dude. It's super tight. And so am I. Who writes this script every week? They give me these terrible scripts. Ugh. Hey, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of Better Off Chats. Thank you to Magellan for being the rock to my hard place. And let's all get out there and Have a good one. Peace.